Introducing the African Diaspora News Channel app, your gateway to stories that's overlooked by the corporate mainstream media.
At African Diaspora News Channel, we cover stories that don't receive mainstream attention, and we serve as the voice to the global Black community. We are committed to informing and educating through the power of media, connecting the African diaspora one story at a time.
With our platform, we're helping to end injustice by exposing it.
Join us in standing for excellence in journalism and serving our community. Download the African Diaspora News app today.
Imagine your child being called the N-word at school, and then they get expelled for it. Not the bully, not the person who said it, but your child, your Black child. And if you're Black, you know this isn't just an isolated incident. This is part of a larger, painful pattern. First, let's listen to this 911 call, and then we'll talk about this right after.
As Rast answers the operator's questions.
Do you know what their names are?
No.
Okay, and are they white, Black, Hispanic, Asian?
Second one.
Rast tells the operator she doesn't want to hang up. A few minutes later, she's heard interacting with the parents.
And you want to nail me to a cross over and over and over again, and it's not productive. I'm right here advocating for your child who did come sit in my chair in my office and does trust me. And that's fine. Well, then he acts like he does. Well, he acts like he does. Talks to me all the time. So, oh my God.
You can't hear the parents' voices clearly on the recording, but Kara Stoudemire Phillips and her husband, Mike Phillips, told us in person earlier this month they had rushed to the school to comfort their son after a racial slur may have been directed at him and to question how leadership was going to respond. They said they were met with defensiveness by then Principal Rast.
We were just wanting answers. And she stated that, if we don't trust her, then...
Back in March, Mike Phillips and Karis Phillips, two loving, involved parents, did what any of us would do. They showed up at their son's school, the Madeline School in Portland, after finding out that their 9-year-old son had been called the N-word. Now pause and let that sink in. A 4th grader called the N-word on school grounds. That alone is heartbreaking. But what happened next is where things took a ridiculous turn, a ridiculously familiar turn. When the Phillips parents went to the school to advocate for their son, peacefully mind you, the principal, a woman named Tressa Rast, called the police on them because they dared to speak up for their child. They weren't violent. They weren't unruly, but the principal claimed that they were yelling, disruptive, and refusing to leave. These are terms that many Black folks know can be used to criminalize even the calmest forms of protests. And in a country where calling the police on Black people can lead to deadly consequences, that's not just an overreaction. That's a threat and an abuse of power. It is absolutely shameful, absolutely ridiculous. Now, as Mike Phillips, the father of the young Black boy, said, and I quote, "As an African-American male, having the police called on you historically has so many implications. It was weaponized to make sure that I knew who was in power." This isn't new. This has happened on several occasions. Now, let me tell you something else that is extremely disturbing. After this so-called disturbance, as claimed by the principal, their son, the same boy who was a victim of a racist slur, was expelled. He wasn't suspended. He was expelled. Not that any of them is better. The school claimed the parents violated the parental code of conduct. But isn't it funny how that code of conduct seems to shift when Black parents try to hold institutions accountable? How is it possible that they enforce the parental code of conduct, but the bully was left? Let's zoom out a bit. Historically, Black parents in America have had to fight twice as hard to get half as much when it comes to education. from the days of segregation to the so-called post-racial society of today. Their kids are often punished more harshly, labeled as troublemakers, and denied the benefit of the doubt. And when parents speak up, particularly black parents, they're seen as aggressive, threatening, unreasonable, these negative connotations. They've heard it over and over and over again. It doesn't matter how composed the black sister or brother is. The moment they demand respect, they're met with fear and defensiveness. That's what happened to Phillips' family. They were met with dismissiveness, not compassion, hostility, not accountability. Now, here's where it gets even messier. Shortly after this incident, another student came forward and confirmed that he heard the N-word being used against that black boy. A witness, right? But instead of taking that seriously, guess what the principal did? Guess what Tressa Rest, the principal, told his parents? That she suspected that their child had made it all up. And get this, she suggested that the boy go to therapy to be deprogrammed from the anti-racist lessons that he learned at his previous public school. Let me say that again for the people in the back. The principal wanted a child to be deprogrammed for recognizing racism. That's not just ignorance, right? That's violence in disguise, and that must be nipped in the bud. Now, here's the part that I believe gives a little hope. After community backlash, national media coverage, and over 5,000 signatures on a change.org petition, the principal, Tressa Ross, has finally been let go, fired, gone. But let's be honest. How many times do we see these people quietly rehired at another school with a clean slate like nothing ever happened? That's why we have to keep talking, keep pushing, keep naming what's wrong, bringing it to light, giving voices to the voiceless. Because if we don't, they'll keep sweeping these things under the rug like it never happened. Even if you're watching this from Lagos, where I am, Accra, London, Johannesburg, Kingston, wherever, you may be thinking, well, that's America's problem. But let's be real. Anti-blackness is global. The idea that black voices are too loud, that black children are too disruptive, that black parents are too emotional. That's a script that we've all seen before. In schools, in workplaces, media. Matter of fact, it is a narrative that shaped the way the other world saw the black American community. This story is a reminder that the fight for dignity, safety, and equity for black people is everywhere. And it starts with listening to the voices of the black children, believing them and protecting them. So to the Phillips family, we see you, we hear you, we stand with you. And to every black parent who's had to bite their tongue, hold their breath, or pray before walking into a school meeting, you're not alone. Let's keep the pressure on. Let's keep calling it out. Because silence never protected us as black people. It just never did. My name is Ify Igwe. What are your thoughts about this story? I would love to see. And have you had any experience such as this as a parent, as an auntie, as an uncle, even as a student? I want to hear from you directly. Drop your comments in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. See you on the next story.